Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 150th episode of the Terminal City FC podcast. Fitting that this is the 150th episode, given what we're going to talk about. Josh Ray joined alongside Nathan Durek as per usual here on Terminal City FC. The Vancouver Whitecaps have won the Voyageurs Cup yet again, 3 in a row, and that's big for the club. But before we get to that, we'll also briefly touch on last weekend's game against LA Galaxy, which had a rotated lineup to make way for the Canadian Championship. So Ryan Gauld, for example, did not start, and the likes of Idiye Campo Bilal Habuni got a start, but it's got a tough ask, especially with the rotated lineup. But Whitecaps ended up losing down in LA 4-2.
Yeah, you know what? You're playing the number one team in the West, a team that has not lost at home. It was always going to be a tough battle, but when you
Yep.
sit those guys, you're making a statement. You're making a statement as to which game is more important. And it's not like it's a surprise to us. Vanny even said from the very beginning of the season, the minimum is winning the Canadian Championship. You get to this week, you know what the priority is already. So
Right. And from the get go, I mean, the Whitecaps were in the game, but LA Galaxy, the likes of Royce, Ricky Puig, Joveljic, Joseph
Painstill.
Painstill, Gabriel Peck, those five were just way too much to handle, especially on the transitions. I mean, this is the best transition team in MLS to
It is.
handle for those
The
guys.
the other thing I think you have to give is a special mention to Yoshida on the back line.
9 clears.
Basically, everything that we've come to expect Ranko Veselinovic to do, Yoshida was that for the Galaxy. He was phenomenal in defense, breaking up attacks, clearances, you name it.
Yeah, I mean, he's their version of what Ranko is to the Whitecaps, and credit to Ranko Veselinovic in that game because other than him, the back line looked really shaky against the Galaxy transition. Like you even tweeted that Ranko is a one-man back line, and that's pretty much how you can describe him.
His importance can't be understated. I know you think of like the guy who's in the center of a back three. You don't have your job is just clear to the wide guys, let them take care of the ball. And it's not that case for Veselinovic, especially in a back three zonal marking system, right? You are important for much more than your area. You have to understand where your counterparts are, the lines in front of you. I think we've seen Veselinovic has always been a good center back. I think we've seen him grow into something much more this year, and I do wonder if it has something to do with creating that leadership group that they did at the very beginning of the season, of which Veselinovic is a part of. He's basically the vice captain, right? Alongside players like there's a few others within that group. But if Galt's not on the pitch, he's the first guy that has that armband because, I mean, while Takioka's name is probably first on any game sheet, I gotta say I think Veselinovic is second.
Yeah, and Ranko, he tried to make that clearance on the first goal by Peck, but Peck of course found the rebound and nothing Takaoka or anyone else could do anything about that. And just again, second goal was like just on the big transitions, and can't remember who exactly scored that, but
it ended up being an own goal from Berhalter.
Yeah, but from Sebastian Berhalter. Painstill was just off to the races.
The thing is if Berhalter wasn't there, the man he was in front of was right behind him.
That was Joveljic. Yeah,
it would have been an easy tap in. It just, I don't know.
But much to the Whitecaps' credit, to start that second half, they moved the ball well, and then Brian White from Sebastian Berhalter, who kind of makes up for the own goal, taps it in. But what's the most frustrating part, even Vanni Sartini said around that time, had a good opportunity to tie the game. I mean, Sam Adekugbe had a good cross, just missed Brian White.
Yeah.
And then the seconds after, Peck was left all alone on an island, or was it Ricky Puig? Can't remember who exactly. Blackman was looking the other way. Galaxy go on the transition, and Payne still scored the tap in.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the easiest goal you're ever going to have in your life, right?
Right. It's just the Whitecaps were looking for that time goal, but maybe just a bit too aggressive there with the back line pretty high
When they're
up.
being forced into their own end time and time again by a very dominant Galaxy side, when you get that quick transition, you have to be like the Galaxy, where you just get bodies forward and in dangerous positions. The Whitecaps, unfortunately, would only have one guy, right? So
Right.
you either hit White's head, which is basically crossing onto a postage stamp, or that's it. There's no secondary attacker in behind him. There's no one coming in late on sitting at the edge of the box in case the ball is behind. That's where the Whitecaps started to do better with crosses, and that's why they lead the league in crosses. It's because they give wide players options. There were no options in this game. There was one guy.
Yeah. And all that space and time were given to LA Galaxy, which you can't really do, especially against a team of that caliber. But if there's any other consolation, just after Ricky Pooch got the fourth goal, well taken shot, by the way,
Yeah.
Sam Adekupe gets his first regular season goal with the Whitecaps off the corner kick. The commentators for Apple TV were saying, "Oh, Whitecaps got to exploit LA Galaxy on set pieces because that's Galaxy's weakness," and it took them 96 minutes.
Yeah. The thing is, you look at the Galaxy. The Galaxy is actually quite leaky. Like they have a lot of goals against this season, especially compared to the other teams at the top of the Western Conference table. They're just absolutely lethal. Like you get 2 goals against them, that is pretty decent and is enough in most games. But when you get a team that's scoring 4 against you, 5, we're talking about 1980s NHL again. Just score more than the other guy. Don't worry about a goalkeeper.
Right. And overall, that game, I mean, not too upsetting to drop 3 points, but kind of disappointing that, like Benny said at the end, they could have tied. But then there was the big game on Wednesday. It's fair to say Toronto FC should have won this game. They were the better team. They could have been up 1 or 2-0. And of course, if you're a TFC fan or if you follow TFC, sure, everyone on the team is kicking themselves. They didn't win, but the Whitecaps managed to prevail in the end, despite it not being pretty. And a lot goes to Isaac Boehmer, who won Best Young Canadian and Tournament MVP. Well deserved. And it started right from first half. He saved a Federico Bernardeschi penalty after Richie Larea was taken down in the box.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of Whitecaps fans in the building were pretty angry about that call. And I don't think they're angry about the call, but they're angry about the non-call that had happened, immediately on the other side of the pitch when Brian White was brought down.
Yeah, there's no VAR.
It was a penalty. Like, don't get me wrong.
Shocking.
What Laporta did is a penalty. You can't two-hand a guy to the ground. It was, and the frustrating thing is Laporta got beat in the exact same position only a few games back, where someone comes on him 1v1 coming down the byline, gets between him and the line, not cutting inside, actually gets between him and the line, and that's it, right?
I believe that was the Houston game.
Yeah, it was. Now, thankfully, in the Houston game, it wasn't a penalty, but
they were offside.
They were offside, but in this one, he gets beat. Laporta, oh man, he has flashes of that, right? Where it's like you just wonder if he just sees red at some points.
Yeah, but what was most frustrating was earlier Brian White taking down in the box, no call.
Yeah, it was from behind on his back. I mean, it was a clear goal scoring opportunity if he would have been allowed to get the ball. But when you're being brought down like that, it's one of those ones. Should have been a penalty. Wasn't a penalty. There's no VAR.
Yeah,
so
which
you kind of just got to get up and move on. I don't know if that was still in their heads when the transition happened, but yeah, unfortunately, it led to kind of a dumb play, and yeah, it was a rightful penalty on the other side as well.
Yeah, and the building pretty much came alive when Bulmer made the save off Bernadeschi, and then Whitecaps actually could have scored on right away, but if Fafa Pico took that shot a second or two earlier, maybe it would have been on target instead of blocked or whatever it was.
You know what? There's a few like that. Even when Brian White was brought down in the box, I was still wondering why didn't Fafa just shoot himself? He had no one in front of him.
Yeah, maybe he could have
Right.
shot it on Sean Johnson, and White could have buried the rebound.
Yeah, it was another one of those where I think you're spending too much time looking for the perfect shot rather than just taking the good shot.
Yeah, like we've seen in the past games, Whitecaps players were willing to shoot from distance. We didn't really see that last night.
No, we didn't. In fact, shots on target, only 2 for the Whitecaps, 7 for Toronto.
Yeah.
You take a look at how dominant Toronto was. After the first 10 minutes of the first half, they had 91% possession. Whitecaps were able to slowly get into the game and start playing themselves into the game after about the 10-minute mark. But, I mean, Toronto came with a game plan. They knew what it is they wanted to do. They knew how they wanted to hurt Vancouver. And Vancouver actually had to adapt. You saw them change in about the 25th, 30th minute from that back three, which, you know, is synonymous with how Vanny plays, to a back four. Because you could just see their wide players of Bernardeschi. Thank you.
And Richie Larea.
And Larea. They're just stretching the pitch. I mean, they're basically standing on the line. They're standing on the touch line, right? So you needed players to be able to watch them, and you can't do that wide with 3 at the back. Once the Whitecaps did go to that back four, you saw Bernardeschi switch and play more centrally, trying to use him there. But, you know, you put a player like that century who's watching you, you got Andres Cubas.
And then you got Richie Larea trying to cut in more. And those two were the best players, aside from Bulmer, the best players on the pitch, especially for Toronto, because Toronto was putting everything through Bernardeschi and Larea. Like Bernardeschi's passes and runs thrown on the right side, Larea and his antics a thrown on the left side.
Larea, you know, we've said that with a few players. Ricky Pouge in the previous games, another player like that, where you love him if he's on your team. You just want to smack him.
Yeah. Like Larea is the MLS master, or one of the MLS masters of the dark arts. Like I think he drew at least 5 fouls.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he is phenomenal at what he does.
Yeah, but just kind of discouraging that the Whitecaps hyped up this game. They stretched the importance of this game, and they looked like they were in second gear throughout the 90 plus minutes. Especially like the second half started almost the same way as the first, where all Toronto possession, Whitecaps barely hanging on a thread. Like even at the end of the game when we were on the pitch, you can see pretty much all the play was in the Whitecaps half and around their box.
One of the difficulties was trying to link up to the forward players like White, Gauld, Fafa when he was on. They didn't get a lot of service, and you could see there were huge gaps in between the lines of the Whitecaps. There was no one running within the gaps trying to link up the different lines of play. So when that happens, you know, your forward guys, it looks like they're doing nothing, but it's just that they're starved. They're starved for any sort of service.
Yeah, and the press wasn't as effective for the Whitecaps last night because Toronto, they adapted it too well, and were making use of the wide flanks to suffocate the Whitecaps. And like Gauld, White, and Fafa Pico, just not as effective, not on the same page, it looked like, when it came to some of their passes and their creative output.
When you're being starved of the ball and you just don't get it that often, it's almost like when you do finally touch it, you try to do too much.
That's exactly it.
Right. And it kind of felt a little bit like that, right? Where it's like, finally, you know, it's been 5, 10, even 15 minutes before I've had a touch. Now I need to do something here because I've got the opportunity. I got to take that on myself. And the thing is you don't. You got a whole bunch of other guys around with you. You got to use them. You got to stick to the plans that your coaches has instilled. But yeah, I mean that can be very difficult to keep that composure, especially in a game like this where there's a trophy on the line.
Yeah, and it just felt like they were, like again, too hesitant at the ball at times, too indecisive, trying to wait for that perfect pass, perfect shot. Because, like we seen earlier in the season, the final third and the final touch and pass was an issue last night. And the substitutions, I mean, Fafa Pico was on a yellow, but he came off for Sandro Schuff, and it looked like back to the 3-5-2, though it was kind of hard to tell at times because Toronto had the ball in the Whitecaps and most of the pit of the time.
They were changing in and out of possession in terms of how they were setting up. You could see that fluidity, especially with players like Laborda kind of moving in between lines. Atakube, when he was on, doing the same thing. And you know what? Between the back two lines, it was fine. The problem was it was linking up the forward line, which just was a problem throughout the match.
Yeah, I mean, people were rightfully complaining about with the substitutions. Sebastian Berhalter, understandable. I mean, he can't play the wide positions. Thought he looked okay. Ryan Raposo also kind of made sense, especially since Ali Ahmed wasn't 100% with his injury.
We knew Ali wasn't going to play the whole game. He didn't play the game in LA. He was still dealing with an injury. He still was injured playing that game. The fact that he was able to go 45 minutes, good on him.
And
I have no problem with the substitutions. I have no problem with the substitutions. One, Canadian Championship, your bench is smaller.
Yeah.
You have two less guys on your bench. So, you have to be sparing. You have to use guys that are versatile in multiple positions. You can't do like for likes. You just don't have the personnel to do that. Vanny was talking about it at the game, Gould playing injured, Ahmed playing injured, White playing injured. All these, players that have been picking up things little by little by little, trying to give them some time on Saturday to, get to the position where they can play as much as possible. But you can't do 90 minutes. They might have been one of the better guys on the pitch, but you got to take them off when that is no longer effective.
Right. And I thought Stuart
can't take it.
I thought Stuart Armstrong would come out in the 60th, 70th minute mark. He came on in the 84th minute. And
I thought he would come on a little bit earlier too. I honestly thought that Fafa would come off a lot earlier. Yes, he was an influential player on the pitch, but it's just like Vanny said, it was like the reason they took him off because he thought he was going to get into a fight.
Yeah, I mean, he and Matty Longstaff earlier in the game, they nearly went at it. I mean, it was Fafa who maybe could have gotten a red.
Yeah, it's one of those orange cards, right? It's you know what? In many games, that's a red. The fact that it's not, the fact that there's no VAR, again, that benefits the Whitecaps, I think, in this half, because I think that is one where you might get called to a pitch side monitor.
Yeah, and just, as we said, Stuart Armstrong should have came on earlier. I get that he's still not 100% match fit, but given what he brings, would have been nice to let him do his thing with more time. But we went to a penalty shootout, just like in 2022. Stuart Armstrong was the only player that missed a penalty for the Whitecaps.
Not missed, was saved.
Well, I mean, they call it missed. I don't know.
Yeah, why. I know, but I mean, Toronto actually did miss one.
Hit the
crossbar and up.
Hit the bar, Coach Thompson. Longstaff also had his save by Isaac Boehmer, so that technically that was 3 penalty saves by Boehmer, but it ended up with Utvik. Just like in 2022 with Blackman, a center back scores the winning penalty in the Canadian Championship.
A left-sided center back, too.
Yep. And Utvik, I mean, John Johnson almost got a touch on it, but just beat him by a hair. And after a pretty lackluster 90 minutes, but Whitecaps in the end got the win, got what mattered. CONCACAF Champions Cup next year, 3rd straight Voyageurs Cup. And the fans who did attend the game went home pretty happy.
Yeah. We can talk about the fans. Yeah, just over 12,000. Definitely not the crowd that
not
you hope
good
for.
for
Again, a lot of things playing against that. But man, yeah, 12,000 is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just didn't really see much marketing for the
No,
game
we
on
didn't see anything really marketing this game until day of,
day
unfortunately.
of or the day before. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the weather wasn't great. It's Wednesday. Canucks preseason gets obviously more attention, even though it wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
Uh, so 12K for a final. Apparently, that was less than the CPL final last year.
I would hope
I
so. The
saw.
CPL finals for an entire league. I would hope it's less. This is only a domestic cup.
Yeah, and but yeah, a lot of factors, as we mentioned, played into that. Disappointing, but the Whitecaps did get the win in the end, and Vanny talked about this was the win of love because it was much harder compared to the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say too much because unlike the last 2 years, you could throw away the next regular season game in a way. But this time you can't
No, with
because there's only
I mean, again, I'm not a fan of playing this late in a season for the
me.
Canadian Championship. I know others are. I know Vanny is. He likes the idea of like having your cups come kind of to fruition towards the end of the season. That kind of mirrors what Europe does. But there's too many other things going on in this city, in this country. I mean, you can't try to have a cup competition and hockey has already started. You can't.
Yeah, it's preseason, but
I'm
still.
sorry. It's yes, I get that soccer is the most widely participated in sport. It's not the most watched.
Yeah. Unfortunately, preseason hockey gets more attention than MLS and Can Champ in this
Yeah,
country.
and that should be a sobering reminder of when you should probably play this. Get it done before Leagues Cup. Get it
Yeah,
done
like what
before
they did
Leagues Cup.
last year. It was like
Yeah.
in June.
Last year I think it finished in July. The year before that, I think it finished at the end of May. Actually,
I think July the year before that, and like
yeah,
May, June last year. So
yeah.
those were like the perfect times.
Anyway, we've got still a bunch of games left in the season, but not that many. Only 5 games left. A couple of Cascadia rivals coming up.
Yeah. Portland Timbers are up next, and the Whitecaps are 1-0-1 against Portland this season. They beat them 3-2 in April, and I believe they lost like 3-0, 3-1. I can't remember what the exact score was back in May, but it wasn't very good in Portland.
Yeah. As of right now, because we have those 2 Cascadia Cup games, right now, for as far as Cascadia Cup, all teams have played 4 matches. Whitecaps are sitting on top of that table with 7 points, 2 wins, a loss, and a draw. Portland is right behind with 6, and Seattle has 4. It's still up for anyone, but Whitecaps definitely in the driver's seat. If they win against Portland on the weekend,
Yeah.
mathematically, I believe they should have the cup. That's it.
Mathematically. And if they, I believe if they win against Portland and FC Dallas in their game, they draw or lose, they clinch a playoff
They'll
spot.
make the playoffs as well. Yeah, they have an opportunity to seal and clinch a playoff spot as of this weekend, which is not bad, thinking that the Whitecaps in the West are in 7th right now. But that just speaks to how tight this table is. I mean, they're sitting in 7th. Again, they've got a game in hand against a lot of the teams around them, and 1 win moves them up to possibly 4th.
Yeah. And also depending on how the other teams
Exactly.
do. But Portland are just 2 points behind the Whitecaps in the 8th position, 12-8-10 record. And Portland have been scoring goals as of late. And they're going to be
on fire.
well rested compared to the Whitecaps because there was nothing on the midweek for them.
When you take a look at Portland, Evander has moved into the Golden Boot conversation. I think he's one of the top 5 in the league now in terms of goals, and he has got to be one of the at least top 3, possibly top 2 choices for MVP of the season.
Yep. Vander, I think he's like 3 goals in his last 2 at least, because
Yeah.
he did score in their last game, 3-3 draw away to Real Salt Lake. But the game before that on the midweek, 4-2 over LA Galaxy.
Yes.
Which was a
Huge,
statement win.
huge win for them.
Yeah. And Vander, yeah, that was 3 goals in 2 games.
Yep.
He had a brace in that one. And just seeing that the Timbers, yeah, they've been steadily putting up points. Since League's Cup, they've only lost once. And that was to Colorado on the 14th of September.
Yeah. Again, not an easy game by any stretch of the means, but of these 5 games, I mean, you're dealing with not only Portland and Seattle. Seattle's only just a point or 2, 1 point above Whitecaps. You've also got RSL within that mix.
Yep.
It's a very difficult 5 games in. LAFC. So, I mean, we're talking about all Western Conference. You can get yourself into a very enviable position in these playoffs. You could be out of the playoffs.
That's how it's important, like crunch time here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an understatement that Whitecaps put up points, and 3 points would be massive if they managed to beat the Timbers this week. But just Portland's been a team like since League's Cup, and I think even before League's Cup, that's really started to heat up, and they got a good squad. Like Evander leads the attack. You got Jonathan Rodriguez, Felipe Mora,
and
Anthony.
A goalkeeper we all know.
Yep. The player Whitecaps fans love to hate, Max Crepeau. Expect the Boos to be out in full force, which I hope is going to be a bigger crowd than on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I mean, high stakes here when it comes to the playoffs, but it will be another big test for the Whitecaps to see if they can get over the. Hopefully, there isn't too much of a hangover from last night, and they managed to pick up some points, 3 points, hopefully. While IPC plays on Saturday, but another midweek game after, and it's another Cascadia game.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
On a Wednesday.
Again, I mean, we can argue that there's not really ever a lull in MLS. The only lull is stopping for League's Cup, but they got to throw all those games somewhere else, so we end up with all these Wednesday games. Big test. We will be at the match this weekend and have that for you on Saturday.
Yeah, and then Wednesday, Seattle is in town.
Yep.
More Cascadia. I mean, you gotta love Cascadia, and having those 2 games back to back, why not? And playoff implications, hell yeah, brother.
Yep. All right, let's move over to the other Vancouver professional soccer team, Vancouver Rise. Christine Sinclair was talking in an interview. She's going to retire as a player with Portland. So her contract is up at the end of this season. There had been a lot of talk. Everyone remembers that photo that she posted on social media, holding or wearing the sweater, holding the scarf up. Create a lot of speculation, but she has not fully, but it's pretty much put to bed. Yeah, she will not be playing for Vancouver Rise.
Yeah, she
However,
said
that does not remove her involvement in some other fashion.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the article of the interview she did with the province with Steve Ewan. Her heart is set on retiring with and she said, my support is behind Vancouver when the Northern Super League gets into action next spring. And they've been hinting, there's rumors that she'll be involved in some way, but just not playing.
Yeah. What that way is, I mean, some people have speculated part of an ownership group, which I'm not too sure how that would work. There literally already is an ownership group unless they decide to share shares.
And she joked that
coaching of some way. So
coaching.
I mean,
She said
there are
no, she
different
has no
ways.
desire to be a head coach because it causes
No,
gray hairs.
no. I mean, she's already involved with the league as an ambassador, but that's league wide. There is going to be some sort of role with the Vancouver franchise. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, so we'll see in the next few weeks, I believe, because season ticket deposits have already been happening for the Vancouver
Mhm.
Rise, and I will get some more announcements regarding the team and hopefully the stadium soon.
Yes. Where? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and just moving on to the men's side for the national team. So Canada has risen to 38th in the FIFA men's rankings, and that's 11 spots since Jesse Marsh took over. Rightfully deserved. They've done well since he's taken over, and it's good to see that the stock is rising.
Highest I've ever seen it. I remember when this team was sitting around 120th. So to see them to see them over 50 was a milestone. To get
Yeah,
over that 50 mark, and all of a sudden you can now get noticed with various European leagues. To be sitting in 38th is I'll be honest. I never thought I'd see this. I
me neither.
never I never thought I would see Canada up there with the likes of some, smaller and mid-sized European nations. It did not compute in my brain. So this is something else.
Yeah, and Canada gets back into action in a few weeks with
Yeah.
the Panama friendly in Toronto. And Jesse Marsh said he expects to use that game to give more players their first cap. I
Which
mean,
is
he's
pretty
already
amazing when you think of how many players he has already given first caps to. Tani Oluwasi, Nathan Saliba, Nico Sigur, Stephen Afrifa. I mean, he's given
yep.
a lot of players already that first taste as a Canadian national player on the first team, right? We're not talking youth as well. The fact that he's going to be naming a 26-man squad means that he can bring in a lot of these potential first cap players without, taking away from any of his established players. It's going to be really, really interesting to see. There's been a couple of names that have bandied about. Obviously, I think the one person that everyone wants, I don't think this will ever happen, is Burnley's Luca Kolyosho.
Yep.
I don't see this happening. Right
Me
now, he
neither.
has switched. He has declared for Italy, but he qualifies, I believe, and I don't know what the fourth is, but I believe he is a quadruple national: Italy,
Yeah, like
Canada,
he has a
United
bunch.
States, and I believe that there is a fourth that he qualifies as well through relatives. I'm just not too sure what it is. I know a lot of people in the United States are really, really hoping that he's going to switch. Absolutely no one expects him to switch for a friendly. It's not happening. Don't expect him. He will not be there. But
There's
Bournemouth's
more dual
Daniel
nationals.
Nevison, one name that could
Yep.
be there, and one that's really been picked up is a former Canadian or a former youth player is Santiago Lopez, who plays in Mexico's
For Pumas.
Liga MX for Pumas. 19 years old, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's very, very
Marsh has
young. Marsh
been
has named
on goal
Lopez
here,
by
like to
name a few times.
that he wants to recruit more dual nationals,
Yeah.
which is
Good. Good.
great.
I think you can make that player pool bigger. It's just increasing the
Yeah.
level of competition. We need established players to think your place is not guaranteed. You will be called if you perform, but there is
That's the way
someone
it should
else
be.
right behind you to take your place if you don't.
Yeah, and creates
Hey, wouldn't it be
competition
nice
and depth.
after on the heels of the Canadian Championship, a player like Bomer gets called up? 26
Yeah,
man
hey,
squad.
Vanny said, "I hope Jesse Marsh was watching."
Yeah.
I'm sure he was.
Oh, I'm sure he was too. It's
And
the Canadian Championship. I don't know. I that's my wishful thinking, but who knows, right?
right, and before the Toronto game in October, the Canadian men will be training and spending some time in Montreal,
Mhm.
and just to spend time with the local soccer clubs and all the grassroots clubs there, which is great. Helps grow the game. Gives
This
the
is something
brass to
that
look at the
Marsh has
future.
talked about being important. And they also said they want to get out of playing in the traditional areas where the team plays when they're in Canada. They mentioned playing
Yeah,
games. Why not play in Halifax, right? Why not
yeah. Why not?
play in Regina? Why not play in these other areas that might not get a chance to see the men's national players that close, right? We know Marsh already
Right.
spent time in Edmonton, working with a whole bunch of youth groups, and then running coaching clinics for people living up there. Um, you get the feeling that he does see this as a coast to coast to coast country, not just 3 urban centers. So I think that's really
Right.
really cool. Obviously, I want more games out here. I don't think we get a lot of games in
But
our
we're
own
gonna get a
region.
Gold Cup game.
But yeah, we will be getting a Gold Cup. Yeah, we can talk about that. The Gold Cup list of who's going to be hosting matches did come out for 2025. Vancouver is
25.
one of
Yep.
the first time ever that Vancouver will
The
be hosting Gold Cup.
only Canadian city.
Only Canadian city. Again,
And
they're having to play a little bit of balancing act
they're all
because that's also
Western
the same year as the Club
Club World
World
Cup.
Cup, and that's being hosted by the
Yep.
United States. So they're all on the East. Gold Cup, all kind of Central and West. Kind of weird that 2 tournaments
Yeah.
at the same time, one country. But
Hey,
going
it's
back
good.
to,
Good
to
for
going back
soccer.
to Jesse Marsh and playing it in other centers of Canada, I think there is a lot of places he could do it. And I'm really hoping that he does. Even go to smaller places that have really, really vibrant fan bases. Look, when the women's team played over at Starlight Stadium in Langford, right?
Yeah.
Might not be the biggest
That
stadium in
game
the
sold
world,
out.
but can you imagine a game there? It would be phenomenal.
Yeah, it would. And given, like we said earlier, that soccer is the most played sport, especially among children and like
Mhm.
teenagers in this country, because it's accessible, affordable. I mean, good on Jesse Marsh for running these coaching clinics, for helping grow the game across the country and looking at young talent, because this is the way it should be. And this is the way to prove that this country is serious about footy.
Yeah, unfortunately, not the only news coming out of Canada Soccer Camp right now. We have to flip a little
Yeah.
bit. TSN's Rick Westhead's been talking with and reporting about the NDP Member of Parliament, Nikki Ashton. We had talked a couple of weeks ago that she was going to be tabling a motion to start standing committee hearings about what people are calling drone gates because we're
Yeah.
really really boring and everything has to be a gate. That was 2 days ago. She said she was going to be tabling it on Tuesday, which was 2 days ago. I don't know if it actually happened, but it is happening at some point. Whether or not it moves forward beyond that, I do know that she has support from at least one conservative member. I think that is supporting the bill. They're seeking testimony again from all 3 of the coaches that were suspended from the women's national team. Obviously, head coach Bev Priestman,
Priestman,
assistants Jasmine Mander and Joey Lombardi.
those
Also
two were
looking
involved.
at calling John Herdman, coaching
Yep.
TFC right now, was with the men's and women's programs before that.
And yeah, this thing will not die, and this is just the beginning. Uh, just
I don't know why it's happening right now, not while you're in the middle of an independent review. You're telling me that you don't want the fact findings within a discovery of an independent review as part of what you're going to be using in your standing committee? Isn't that
Yep.
just the tools to build your arsenal when you're actually trying to get witness testimony? Don't you need actually something to have in order to know what it is you're asking? They're
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
they're doing this ass over backwards. The problem is we're all looking at this as well, looking at the previous standing committee that was held what was last year about all the different assaults and sexual assaults that were happening, over from the early 2000s onward. And we remember that it was just theater.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. In fact, you had the panel of the four players. You had Sinclair. I think you had Janine, Becky.
She made that passionate, like,
Yeah, but when they
speech.
actually started having the questions asked to them, by about the fourth MP that was asking questions, slamming their fists and being all irate, you could see the players getting visibly frustrated because they're getting the exact same questions from everyone. These were MPs that just wanted a camera placed on them so they could act all passionate, act all irate, and just, I don't know. It was theater. I don't expect this to be anything else. In fact, I expect this to be worse because they're not waiting for any sort of independent review to give them ideas or to give them any sort of fodder to figure out what they should be asking in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Why not have
this is nothing.
first?
This is just a pure performance.
I don't know. And maybe the MP should, there are more pressing issues in this country.
You know what?
Also,
we have a standing committee on Canadian heritage. That is what this committee is for. So I have no problem with them doing it. That's this committee's job. But do it at the right time. Do it when you actually have something to say.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. My two pieces.
So
all right, CPL.
Yeah. So Vancouver FC's collapse continues. And this was going to be tough. It's Forge. Yep. They've already clinched the playoff spot. I mean, they did with this win over Vancouver FC. 3-1 at Willoughby Park. And Vancouver is now in sixth with Pacific, I believe, 2 points just above them. And Vancouver had majority of shots, same shots on target, but defending woes on all three goals, like the Chouanier goal and the Betty Banga goal. The first two, pretty poor defending from Vancouver. Like the second one especially, just ball watching. And then felt like they just gave up on the third one with Noah Jensen scoring in the 83rd minute. PJ Tahid, yeah, he did get a consolation goal, but I just Vancouver, like their form has just been falling. Like 4 losses out of their last 5.
They've dropped to 6th in the table. Actually, both BC teams are out of the playoffs as of right now.
Well, Pacific, that's the final spot, 5th.
Yeah.
And both are hanging by a thread. Hey, look at this. Halifax is a point behind Vancouver. Remember how bad Halifax were?
How long they went without a win?
Yeah, and then Valor is just 2 points. So Vancouver is closer to the bottom than they're just as close to the bottom than to the playoffs.
It's funny when you think that this part of this in the season that the Wanderers could actually make the playoffs.
That's crazy. Even Valor has a slim chance, and they have been terrible.
I don't think that there has been a single season yet where there hasn't been at least one BC team in the playoffs.
I don't think so. No, last year I don't think. No, last year I'm sure because both BC teams didn't make it.
Did they not make it? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, I mean this game was just another game of frustration.
Pacific made it
Vancouver. Yeah, but they did. Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Just another game of frustration for Ashton Godby and Vancouver FC. I mean, there were a few good chances for Vancouver, especially with Alejandro Diaz and Gabriel Bitar. But again, the back line just fell asleep at the worst possible time and fell to a really good Forge team. And looking at the table here, Forge still in the driver's seat with 5 points above Atletico Ottawa for the CPL regular season crown. The playoffs begin in a few weeks. It's crunch time for both teams.
It doesn't matter who your CPL MLS. I mean, you either show up now or you were very, very quickly played out.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah. Atletico also clinched the playoffs with their draw against Pacific.
Yeah.
So 3 more spots remain. So moving over to Europe, I am beginning to recognize my club again. It's early, it's still September, but Maresca ball is phenomenal to watch. It's working. Maybe this is the new manager bump like what Tottenham had last year with Postecoglou. Maybe, but what we're seeing so far from Enzo Maresca, it's been great. And there are still some people, like some Chelsea people on Twitter and some content creators saying, "Oh, this isn't still isn't good enough. The whatever it's just not good enough." Kind of is. There's progression. Like I 5 games in the it's 3-1 record, fifth in the Premier League table. Last year, I don't think they were even close to this under Maurizio Pochettino, and they 3 wins. They played well for the most part. Should have won the Palace game, and despite losing the Man City game, played well.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, West Ham at the London Stadium, Nicholas Jackson's show. Like 3 minutes in, Jadon Sancho passes the ball down to him. He's on the left side. West Ham just freezes, and then Jackson scores 5 on Areola, I believe. Like nobody even tried to take Nicholas Jackson on. But credit to Jackson, it was a good run, great decision making to go 5 hole, and I don't know, like it's like he just had this power to freeze every West Ham defender. But he wasn't done. Like just 15 minutes later, Moises Caicedo finds him in a pocket of space. Again, West Ham defenders just freeze. And I said before that Jackson's decision making and his timing of his runs, he needs to work on it. There we go. He timed his run perfectly, beat Areola cleanly on the breakaway. 2 goals for Nicholas Jackson, 4 goals on the season. And I'm telling you, like if the guy improves his decision making and his one-on-ones, this is a great striker. He showed that against West Ham. And then just after halftime, and in the first half, West Ham did wake up a little, but they really couldn't create much. Jackson gets an assist on the transition. The transitions is 3-5-2 because the wingbacks are inverted and they just go up the pitch, and it's quick, like very quick when executed perfectly. Jackson finds Cole Palmer running down. Palmer meets Areola, ice cold, and the game is pretty much wrapped up at that point. But a lot of credit has to go to Moises Caicedo for that because he was everywhere. I told y'all this is the successor to N'Golo Kante, and he showed shades of Kante. And this is why they paid the money for him, because he does stuff like this. He won duels, he was tackling, got the assist on Jackson's second goal. And I'm just looking at the stat right now. Caicedo has made more successful challenges, 15, than any player across Europe's top 5 leagues this season.
Wow.
And Caicedo has won 64.4% of his individual duels in the Premier League this season. Highest percentage of any player in the league with over 50 duels.
Not bad.
So this guy, I don't know why people keep saying he's a flop. This guy is proven that he is one of the best young midfielders in the league and has pretty much become one of the best midfielders in the league. And he's in the high 80s in defensive actions, dual win rates, key passes, according to the data MB, the percentile. And he's quietly already having a better season than last year. So this guy is continuing to flourish, and he apparently was named, I don't remember what site this was, but by performances, top under 23 holding midfielders in the world, number 1, Moises Caicedo. Above the likes of Camavinga, Zaire Emery, and Kobbie Mainoo.
Well, I guess he's doing better than that disastrous debut that he had last year, right?
Yeah, I think ever since then, like over a year ago in the same stadium, he's improved and he's come a long way since. But credit to the back line and Robert Sanchez for keeping a clean sheet. First time in over a year there's been back to
Wow.
back clean sheets on the road. I know it's West Bournemouth and West Ham, but it's still worthy of the applause. And then 2 days ago in the Carabao Cup against a team with Newfoundland and Labrador as a sponsor, and which gave more exposure to Newfoundland and Labrador. Maybe seems like a nice place to visit. I'll visit one day. And 5-0. And this is how it should be in the cup competition of a team like Chelsea, because remember last year, Chelsea managed to struggle against AFC Wimbledon under
Hey,
Pochettino.
Tottenham last week struggled against Coventry, only got through by 2 goals in the 88th and 92nd minute. So
Yeah,
it
but
happens.
I know it's Barrow, but this is why Chelsea signed all those attacking players, because it gives them depth, gives the other attackers some time to rest. And it's kind of crazy to think Christopher Nkunku is second on the team sheet right now, because look how good this guy is. Hat trick. Yeah, it's
And
Barrow.
Barrow's doing well. They're first in League Two.
Yep.
7 games, only got 3 goals against. So you almost doubled the goals scored against them so far this season.
Yeah, I mean Nkunku, both well taken goals. First one was just a well taken strike on transition. Second one, great flick on. Third one, I don't know what their goalkeeper was thinking. Their captain also. Farming tried to take Nkunku on, but Nkunku stole it from him and buried it. And Farman got the own goal also. Like he tipped in Joao Felix's free kick. And also nice to see Pedro Neto get his first Chelsea goal through a great pass from Mudryk. So just clear dominance in this game. Didn't really get to watch it, just saw the highlights. But Joao Felix, Christopher Nkunku, Pedro Neto, that's your second, it's your B attack. I mean, that's depth right there.
Yeah.
And the narrative is, oh, Chelsea have 40 players. They actually have 25. Because they're either out on loan or with the second team or U23s.
Yeah.
And I guess this is why that, especially given the amount of games, as we talked about last week, players are not happy the amount of games. This is why Chelsea signed all those players.
You do need that depth. Again, you can only register so many players, but
they only registered 25.
Yeah, you do need the depth.
Yeah, just lots to like all around from Chelsea over the past week, and it's good to watch. I'm beginning to recognize my club again. But another big test this weekend, it's Brighton with their young manager, and they're still undefeated.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. 2 wins and 3 draws. It looks like Joao Pedro may or may not play, so that's kind of a boost for Chelsea. But Brighton have been a stingy team in the past for Chelsea, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle this. So, in other news, Chelsea don't have a shirt sponsor still, but it looks like they're in talks with a pretty big airline company, Qatar Airways, as the new shirt sponsor. But that's not the only airline.
Didn't Qatar Airways, weren't they the shirt sponsor of Barcelona for a while?
Yeah, they were during the peak MSN days. And they're also in talks, according to Sky, with Riyadh Airlines.
Riyadh,
yeah. I can't pronounce that.
Yeah,
Turkish
Riyadh.
Airlines as well. But the guy reporting this from Sky, Kavis Sohakol, reports that Turkish Airlines was almost a Chelsea shirt sponsor back in 2015, but they went with Yokohama Tires instead. So it's just jarring to see Chelsea play without a shirt sponsor, but I'm looking at the photoshops that people have made. Qatar Airways looks good on it.
Cool.
So we'll see where that goes. So
So weird
Tottenham,
to think that because Tottenham's had the same shirt sponsor since like the early 2000s.
yeah, yeah, they've been with AIG or whatever it is
AIA. They've had
forever.
Holstein before that. They've had a few others, but it's always been AIA.
Yeah, but for Tottenham, 3-1 win over Brentford despite the bad start, like 23 seconds, whatever it was.
You said you are recognizing your team. I'm recognizing my team too. Yes, like get rid of the first minute. Apparently, that's just something Brentford does. They scored 23 seconds into the game against Spurs. They did the exact same thing the week before, but it only took them one less second in 22 seconds. So apparently, that's just how they start. They score the first goal, and then they forget they got to play for another 89 minutes. Dominant performance for Tottenham. Again, Solanke gets his first goal in a Spurs shirt 8 minutes in. That ties the game. Johnson, 28th minute, gets another one. His goals in back-to-back games now because he also scored Leagues Cup. As he scores, finger to his mouth, silencing all the haters. We talked about that last week about a lot of the abuse.
It's a good celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Good on you. Do it. It boggles my mind how so many people are coming down on this guy, where in his very first season he had 15 goal contributions.
That's not bad. I mean,
that's not bad. Yes,
I even think the hate was too much
quiet for large parts, and he's can kind of ebb and flow a little bit. He is a young player, and if he's doing this already, I got no problem. He's going to get better.
Isn't he like 22, 23?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's grow.
Icing on the cake, James Maddison gets his first of the season in the 85th minute. But again, one of the stories again is the amount of people that are criticizing the team or players, and I don't think they understand what they're criticizing. One of the players that's really been coming under a lot of criticism this season is Son Heung-min.
Why?
I get it. 30 years old. He has slowed down a bit. He's back playing on the left, where, you know what? He should be. But when he shoots, yeah, he hasn't been all that precise. He's already broken, like he has opened his account. He's already going. He's flying. But he had 2 assists in this game, right? He is still doing the job that we expect him to do. I feel like there is a lot of soccer fans out there without soccer minds, and it's very frustrating.
If he's getting goal contributions, he's doing the job, right?
You remember back in the day when we used to watch, and don't take this as an analogy, it's not, but remember we used to watch Ibrahimovic, and for 85 minutes of a game, you wouldn't notice him, but he'd end up with a brace on the score sheet because he just knows where to be in those moments. Son puts in the work. You notice him throughout the game, but he is contributing in those moments as well, right? I think he's now 4th all time for assists. It's something like that. Like, it's just the numbers that he has racked up, and forget him being like basically blowing every metric out of the water for Asian players in the Premier League. Just players in the Premier League. He is posting
that show he's up there,
right? He is definitely one of those top players. And the fact that he wants to stay at Tottenham and he doesn't want to leave until a trophy is won, he had offers to go. He can be making an absolute mint somewhere else.
Gone to Real Madrid
now. He could be lots of teams in the Saudi Pro League. There is interest from him, like you said, even in Europe. But there is an attachment to this club, and I am all for it. So very, very happy. Starting, I feel, hopefully turning the tide, which is very important, especially because they're playing later today. Chances are by the time this gets posted, the game will already be done, but they've got their first Europa League match today.
Right.
We're playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Karabag FK. Notable team out of, I believe, Azerbaijan.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They used to be in the Champions League.
Sorry?
They were in the Champions League not too long ago.
Usually they're a team that you expect in the Champions League. They are like the top team out of Azerbaijan.
Yeah, they're first in the Azerbaijan league.
They have to do the play-in. So they have to go through the playoff format in order to get to the league stage of Champions League. Didn't quite make it this year. End up dropping down Europa
Yeah.
Europa League for them this year. A game Tottenham should win. I do expect we might see some of the kids. Mikey Moore has been training. Lancashire is back to full training after a little bit of injury issues he had. I think this is the game where you might see possibly starts. I don't know, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, maybe not both, but this is a game where you start playing those kids. This is a game where you say, okay, you know what? You want to play in more games. These are the games you got to show that you deserve it. So I'm all for it.
Enough.
Big test on the weekend. Sunday will be coming up is Manchester United,
who did poorly in their Europa League game against Twente.
Only tied against FC Twente, former Ten Hag team when he played. So storylines abound always, right?
Right.
That's what football is about. It's about the storylines.
Yep.
Tottenham and Man United tied on points right now. Tied on record. Tottenham has more goals. So Tottenham is scoring. Man United is only averaging a goal a game. That's it. Tottenham is almost 2 goals a game. So it should be a good one.
At home or in?
It is going to be
at Old Trafford.
It's at Old Trafford. So
okay.
Not the easiest place in the world, but let's hope that the team is crumbling as much as the building.
Yeah, and the stands are leaking.
Yeah, remember the waterfall that was happening last year?
Yeah.
Other than that, we talked a little bit last week about Sporting Lisbon and their player Victor
Gyökeres.
Thank you. Apparently interest not only with Tottenham but Chelsea and PSG. So Chelsea is definitely a name in this, but those 3 teams are leading the charge to sign this player. I believe he had another brace on the weekend, so he's just lighting it up.
The guy's been linked to pretty much all big clubs over the past few months.
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in this right now. I don't think I would highly doubt he moves in January. I think if anything, it's going to be
next summer.
Next summer, but definitely one to watch. Other than that, we also have Lille midfielder Angel Gomez. He's been watched
that's a name
by
that's been
Spurs, Man United, Newcastle. Definitely paying attention to him right now. He's out of contract next summer, so January, a lot of teams are going to try to pick him up on a free.
Yeah, this guy is a versatile midfielder, and he's done really well at Lille.
Yep. And a midfielder is something Tottenham could be looking at sooner rather than later. Just earlier today, there was a bit more discussion about what could be happening with Roberto Bentancur.
Right.
I'll remember in the summer, he was giving an interview, I think back in his home country of Argentina, racial slur against Sun Heung-min and South Korean players, people. The 2 players have talked about it. Sun, this has kind of come up again because Sun was speaking publicly for the first time about it yesterday. Gave an interview that it's been put to bed between the 2 of them. Bentancur has apologized. Apparently, he had actually apologized before Sun even knew what had happened because he was out doing something else. He didn't hear the story. But the league is looking at this, and the potential suspension for this sort of infraction is anywhere between 6 and 12 matches.
Wow.
Yeah. 6 and 12 matches. It does make me wonder why this and not Enzo Fernandez and his sing-along that he participated in. But regardless, one doesn't make the other one worse or better. It's still pretty bad.
It's both pretty bad, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see if Sun's remarks are taken into account. I have no idea. But we're still waiting to hear about what that outcome is going to be. That's Tottenham.
Moving to other stories. We talked about Wojciech Szczesny retiring. Well,
not so yet. He's doing a Tom Brady.
Yeah, but he's going to come out of retirement to sign with Barcelona, replacing Ter Stegen for 1 year because Ter Stegen is suffering a long-term injury.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Barcelona fans are celebrating this because he made this big error in the Champions League in their loss to Monaco. But as much as you hate the guy, you never want to celebrate a guy's injury.
Not only that, but how long has he been there? He makes one error,
Forever.
and you're celebrating this. I don't know. Again,
No,
fans.
apparently, Barcelona fans have always hated this guy, even when he was good.
You know what? Sometimes it reminds me of youth leagues. Tell the parents to stay out of the stadium. Sometimes you just want to do the same thing to fans.
Yeah, but
Stupid fans.
interesting to see Chesney back in the game so quickly. I
Yeah.
mean, he's got some juice left in the tank. He's only 34. So
You know what? He's a goalkeeper. He could go. I mean, we were talking about this the other day. Brad Friedel went until he was at, what, 40, 41? Yeah, he was a backup in his later years, but you can stick around. Look at the one goalkeeper. Was it Manchester City, the one goalkeeper they have that's their third string goalkeeper? He's been there. I think he's a part of the furniture. And
I forgot his name,
in
but I know
his
who you're
career,
talking
he's
about.
played like 100 minutes or something like that.
I think. Oh yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
they did a video of him in like gardening.
Yeah, like he's been around forever. Nobody knows him, but he's got more trophies than the vast majority of all players. It's kind of funny. Interesting news. I don't know if you saw this. Leagues Cup, EFL, Leagues Cup in England. AFC Wimbledon was getting ready to play a game. They ended up having to postpone it because of severe flooding. Now, it happens.
Yeah, I
Flooding,
saw
there's
this.
rain in England. Surprise, surprise. Did you see the pictures of this pitch? It looked like a monster truck pit. 100,000 liters of water was
Find
pumped
that.
out of this pitch. 100,000 liters. Like, that's insane. One of the fans actually started a
an aquarium
crowdfunding in order to help the club pay for this. He was hoping to raise 10,000 pounds. Within, I think, 48 hours, they'd raised over 150,000 pounds, which, I mean, you got to think at some point this entire pitch is going to have to get replaced. You can't have that much water soaking through. The pitch is ruined. That's going to go a long way.
Newcastle have donated 15 pounds as well, and I'm going to share the screen to
Wait, 15 pounds?
15,000.
Okay. I would love that. Newcastle, richest club in the world. Here's a note from our pocket.
Yeah, here it is.
That's the pitch. Yeah. So it's basically, it became a sinkhole, right? And you got to think, that's only a corner of the pitch. You can actually see the 18-yard line from the side of the box.
It says like keep Lear here or whatever. I don't know what that says.
100,000 liters.
Jesus.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, good on soccer community for coming together. Fans of the club for doing that. I mean, you already have to spend your money to buy tickets and all the stuff there to do this. Way, way, way above and beyond. And also, I didn't realize about Newcastle. Good on other clubs. I'd heard, like, when they started the crowdfunding, the guy was hoping, like, 10 pounds here and there, whatever change. They had individuals donating up to 5,000 and individuals. So, I mean, this really, really kind of galvanized, I think, the greater community, not just the AFC Wimbledon community, which is really, really
good
nice
for the football community.
Yeah. Another good story. We talked about all the, players that are getting older. They kind of go out for.
I didn't even know this guy was still playing.
Andy Carroll. Andy Carroll had just finished. He was actually playing with a League side. I think he was playing with Auxerre, actually, with Theo Bear, whatnot. He actually canceled his contract with the club. He signed with former Ligue 1 club Bordeaux. Bordeaux right now is playing in the 4th tier
because they got liquidated.
They were relegated to Ligue 2 a couple years ago. They actually went into administration last year, were forcibly relegated to what's called the Championship National, but then they had bankruptcy. Yep. Bankruptcy relegated them even another level. They've been forced to get rid of their professional status. They've now moved to a semi-pro status. But Andy Carroll went and signed with them. In his first game, came off the bench, scored a brace.
Maybe Andy
This
Carroll is
is
the
a guy
symbol
that's
of a
not playing
rebirth.
for money. This is a guy playing for love.
He wants to save the club.
That it's
Good on him.
good on him.
I mean,
It reminds me, and I can't remember the player's name, but years and years ago when Juventus got relegated because of all their match fixing and whatnot, they got relegated to the third or fourth division. And one of their top players, because everyone was signing with other clubs at that point, one of their top players gave an interview and said, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I got a club to get back up."
Yeah, I mean, you barely see loyalty or this kind of love for a club, especially of that size in football these days. Good
Absolutely.
on Andy Carroll. He made it his mission to get
So let's
Bordeaux
just
back.
say when Football Manager comes out here in probably November or something like that, Bordeaux might be an
Usually comes
interesting
around
save.
Yeah, I mean, Bordeaux, they used to be a big club in France, and they just
Absolutely.
went through financial difficulty.
Yeah. Well, I think Bordeaux, that whole area, rivalries with Toulouse and whatnot. So
yeah.
Speaking of France,
French clubs, looks like Trent Alexander-Arnold is making offers to purchase Ligue 1 club Nantes through an English investment firm, and it looks like the potential price could be 100 million euros.
I'm sorry, but I can't believe it's that cheap. This is the Ligue 1 club, and
I
I get it. French football is not the top of everything, but I mean, I'm sorry, but that is cheap for a top tier club.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind. Didn't Nantes have and I know he didn't retire there, but they had who was Leicester's manager when they won the Premier League?
Ranieri
had actually managed at Nantes after Leicester for a season or two, and did. I think he actually got them really, really close. I think they actually won a domestic trophy or something like that. They did really well. He didn't retire there. He obviously, I think he was back in Italy when he retired. But I mean, this is let's call them an established mid-level Ligue 1 club.
Yeah, and this is a club that's always in the top 10.
Yeah, right.
So I thought there'd be more than 100 million.
I was really surprised. Speaking of ownership, let's wrap this up. American businessman
Thomas
Friedkin.
Or
his
Dan
company
Friedkin.
Friedkin Group are looking to take over Everton. So Everton potentially has new buyers yet again.
It looks like it's very close to happening, and it looks like it's going to be a 94.1% stake.
So it's the entirety of the majority shareholder stake. So they're looking to get out. Everton need this. I mean, they've got financial difficulty. They're barely hanging on in terms of the league. They're in the middle of trying to finish building a brand new stadium. That is, the cost of that stadium have skyrocketed. They went through a really bad process with what was the 777 group, another American group that was going to buy them, who, as they were doing it, was literally getting downgraded in their credit rating by American creditors. So there was something fishy going on there. This sounds like a much better group, a more robust group. Everton, one of those clubs that they're not my club, but you hope to see them around. They're part of the English furniture.
And apparently Friedkin also owns Roma.
There you go. Okay.
And he is not just a businessman, he's also a film producer, which is interesting.
Why not, right? Who knows? Maybe he's going to make the Everton documentary series.
Hey, why not? Maybe he'll push for an All or Nothing. That would be interesting.
Can you imagine Sean Dyche as the face of your documentary series?
Voice.
Yeah. Utter woke nonsense.
I don't know. Did he actually say that? Because I see that.
I don't know, but it's the funniest meme.
Yeah, and I don't know. Depending on Everton's form, it looks like Dyche might not be there long. And it's been reported that Friedkin Group wants to start fresh and are looking at Maurizio Sarri.
Sarri?
Which is crazy, because Sarri's the guy that's managed big clubs like Juventus and Napoli and Chelsea.
Is Chelsea big? Yeah.
Yes, a little bit.
You know what? Fine, I get it. You wanting to start fresh, but Everton's problem is not Dyche.
No, it goes beyond Dyche.
Whoever you want, the problems are going to remain.
Yeah, and I don't know if Sarri would want to go there.
Hey, they had Ancelotti.
Yeah, and I still can't believe that happened.
I can't believe that happened either. That just seems like a fever dream.
Yeah, sorry would be even more of a fever dream. And the guy, after one training session, poor guy and his cigarettes.
I was gonna say is like, where is he gonna be allowed to smoke on the pitch?
That's kind of the reason why I'm thinking he doesn't want to go there.
They're gonna have the technical area and then the smoking tech. They're gonna have to break down the technical area into smoking and non-smoking, kind of like how they used to do with restaurants in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, but I guess we'll leave it on that note. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Follow me on Twitter, Joshua00. Nathan is Enduric. Check out our articles for Air 51 Sports Network. Nathan has his post game up for Canadian Championship. It's already up, and I'm going to put up my supplemental piece on the Whitecaps win and the playoff race soon. And hello to everyone who had watched the live stream. Almost 50
Appreciate
of
it.
y'all. Appreciate it. Good that we talked all things footy for over an hour. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening on the podcast platforms, whatever you're listening to. So that concludes this week's episode. Peace out.
Take care.